Hey guys, long time no see. I'm sorry I've been a ghost lately. It's just work it is. You already know what time it is.
Bum, bum,
Up and
bum.
away!
Woo!
Woo! Anyways, guys, we're about to go in. We're ready to have a blast.
Later that same evening.
All right, everybody. We just came back from watching Superman, and let me just say that just as a heads up, we're not gonna talk about the movie itself. Um, it, we want to give everybody a chance to see the movie and determine for themselves if it is worth watching, if it's like good for them, or if they prefer the previous iterations or any other iterations of Superman. However, we will talk about, our history with Superman, our experiences with Superman, and maybe like, some of our favorite things about Superman, and maybe a few things we dislike about the character. And Chris, I want to have you start off with, your personal history with Superman.
Yeah, so with Superman, it's a family thing because my dad, his favorite superhero is Superman, and so naturally he introduced Superman to me as a kid. I remember back in the day when I was a kid, he would like used to like hold me in this position and have me fly pretend to fly like I was Superman.
Mm-hmm.
And some of my earlier exposures to Superman was through like the toys that were available in the toy stores. Saw a little bit of Superman the animated series, and then also a little bit I also saw a little bit of the Justice League, and that was and my dad telling me about Superman, how awesome he is, and how he's like powerful, he can fly, and beat bad guys up. So those things are how I got introduced to Superman. And then not too long after, when I grew up a little bit, my dad showed me like the first OG Superman movie from 1978 with Christopher Reeves, and I liked it. Like I honestly think it's a great movie about Superman. It captures his character perfectly. Christopher Reeves does a great job playing both Clark Kent and Superman as distinct personalities. Clark Kent is awkward and kind of clumsy, and Superman is this bold and confident superhero, always ready to save the day. But and then not too long after, my brother and I we saw the second Superman movie, which is pretty good, though it does have its corny moments.
Mm-hmm.
And and then eventually we saw like Man of Steel, that kind of stuff. Man of Steel was fine, but as you said before in a previous episode, you described it as Super Batman, and watching it in retrospect, I can definitely see why it's Super Batman. And I know the movie's directed by Zack Snyder, but Christopher Nolan was a producer at it. But just because you're a producer of a movie doesn't mean you're going to save the movie, right, David?
Yeah.
And I almost forgot too. I remember my local library had Superman comics from like the golden age of comics, so I would read those stories, and I became more fascinated with Superman because of them. And Superman the golden age was different than Superman now. Like back in the day, like he was more of a vigilante, right, David?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like he'd actually like beat up criminals like to a bloody pulp and whatnot.
Yeah.
But then eventually, but then this is also like a little history lesson. But then like eventually they mellowed his personality down. It was actually during the golden age of comics when they started toning him down to be like a hero who fights for truth, justice, and the American way.
Mm-hmm.
And and yeah, the rest is history. Oh yeah, and I don't know. Have you guys seen like the cartoons from like the 1940s?
I only ever saw the one famous one that's like animated in a similar style of like Popeye or Snow White or whatever.
Yes.
That one.
Yeah, those are
From the
those
Fleischer Studios.
yeah, Fleischer Studios. Yeah, they did a series of Superman cartoons that I did see when I found out about them when I was like in my teenage years, and those are pretty awesome. Like the
Heck
animation is
yeah.
gorgeous. It looks way ahead of its time. It looks better than those cheap '60s Superman cartoons,
Yeah.
and even Super Friends. And yeah, those are just beautifully animated, and you can tell that those went on to influence some of the other series in the DC universe, like Batman the animated series. We'll talk about Batman a little later here,
Yeah.
and and even like Superman the animated series. Like the creators have cited that or those series of Fleischer cartoons as an influence.
When I was a kid, the only exposure I had to Superman was through the Super Friends cartoon, the one that Hanna-Barbera made. I know some people don't like it, but I personally thought it was alright. But didn't really have too much exposure to Superman. But I'll say that some of my favorite, well, they're not necessarily my favorite, but one Superman show that I particularly enjoy is the 1940s radio series.
Right, David. Every time I think of Super Friends, I always think of Superman saying, "Oh no, those civilians are falling down the bridge. It's time to use my flight ability to save them."
Yeah. Yeah. So my exposure to Superman was well, like you, Chris, my dad was also a huge Superman fan. Long story short, almost everybody in Puerto Rico was huge, at least back in my dad's day, like they were big Batman fans, and he was like, I don't know, I'm curious about Superman, so like he started reading Superman comics, and he's like, I love Superman, that's my favorite hero. So so obviously he's gonna get like the Christopher Reeve films, and then he's gonna introduce them to me and my sister, but like I didn't actually like Superman growing up. I was like thinking to myself, he's so generic, like everybody loves him, I was more of a Spider-Man kind of guy, but like even though both characters are similar in their own small little ways, but I did grow up like seeing like Superman Returns or Man of Steel, Batman versus Superman, all that kind of stuff, and like I'll be honest, the first thing I didn't like about Man of Steel was that they took out the Superman theme song, because like I was like expecting that they would have the Superman theme song, even though it was a remake. I still was like, yeah, I'm gonna hear the Superman theme song, and I didn't hear it. But it's okay. It's okay. It still was a decent film in its own right. But yeah, no, that's Super Batman.
I am the Knight. I am Superman.
Oh my gosh. And it wasn't until so when I was young, I did read Superman comic books, but like I didn't read them as much because I was more into like reading Batman, Spider-Man, Deadpool, Punisher, all those kinds of guys. I even got to like Nightwing, Flash, Wonder Woman, just little by little I got into those other characters, but I like restricted myself from reading Superman because same thing, I thought he was very generic. And then years later I decided, you know what, I'm gonna actually give Superman a shot and read his comic books. And when I started reading his comic books, I see why my dad loves him, and now he's my number 3 favorite superhero. Number 3 used to be Deadpool. Now Superman's above Deadpool.
Superman's one of my favorite heroes, but let's not forget who the real heroes are. Our dad for introducing us to Superman.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, they're the real heroes, right, David?
Mm-hmm.
And so, with that, I was thinking about what I like and dislike about Superman. I mean, disliking Superman is something people
just making it clear, not the movie, the character, or any other movie, to avoid spoilers.
And so I know disliking Superman is kind of blasphemous sometimes to some people because because he's an all-loving superhero and to many a symbol of hope.
Mm-hmm.
But first, I'll talk about what I like about Superman. What I like about Superman is that he cares about everyone, and it doesn't matter who you are or like your background or whatnot. Superman will come and like save you, and he's always willing to fight for the common good. And also he's a hero that works both day and night. Like, Batman works at night. So if you're in trouble and got something in the daytime, well, too bad. And, working the night is not very hopeful, right, David?
No, it is not.
But
it's depressing.
Yeah, but Superman working the daytime helps the readers and I to like see him as a hero who is always there for his people.
Mm-hmm.
And I also like his alter ego Clark Kent. Just this awkward reporter
Yeah.
who's trying his best to make his way around, and also and like talk to Lois Lane and other co-workers without having them suspect he's Superman.
Sounds a lot like you, boy.
The secret's out. I am Superman. But what I dislike about Superman, so in the Silver Age of comic books, Superman just becomes kind of bland in that, like, he says all these goofy quotes like "Great Caesar's ghost" or "Great Krypton" and whatnot, and then he becomes really gimmicky. Like, he's always giving like new powers with every new comic that comes out that came out during those few decades.
Mm-hmm.
And I know this is not from the comic book. I know this power is not from the comic book, but I always like to point it out as an example of ridiculous powers. So, like in the fourth Superman movie, which I've never seen, nor do I have any intention of seeing, he rebuilds the Great Wall of China with his eyes.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't even make any sense. Like, if I had that power, like, I would have built my dream house at this point.
Yeah.
But like crap, but stuff like that happened in in the Silver Age of comic books. Like, Superman just like he just becomes this boring authority figure has like no personality.
Yeah. So the Silver Age is probably what butchered the reputation of Superman for me, because like that's why I thought he was so generic the entire time, because like he was so overpowered and everything. And unfortunately, Chris, I was unlucky and I actually did see Superman 4. I saw the original 4 Superman films, and in my heart 3 and 4 just aren't canon.
Don't worry, Superman Returns agrees with you.
Yeah, just skip 3 and 4 and go straight to Superman Returns. But like, I will say that like that's probably the only thing I hate about Superman. I don't really hate anything else. Actually, I remembered another thing. I don't like when other comics make him too dark, or well, with some comics like Injustice, it's acceptable because like they take their own spin on the possibility of Superman actually going evil. But like, I feel like in Man of Steel, they make him into something he's not, which is depressing and mopey,
Super Batman.
Yeah, Super Batman. But that's about it. I don't have anything else I hate about Superman. I love the suit. I love how, and I understand some people will probably be like, but that's so generic in response. I like his powers, but I also like that even though he's like this all-powerful being, basically almost a godlike being,
Mm-hmm.
he doesn't want to be a god. He doesn't want to be an alien. He rather empathize and be human. He wants to relate to the people that he surrounds himself with.
Mm-hmm.
Which is something that ironically Jor-El from Man of Steel was trying to say when you remember that scene in the ship when like Lois Lane is escaping or whatever.
It's been a while since I've seen Man of Steel.
Oh, okay, well, there's a scene where Lois Lane is escaping Zod's ship, and then Superman is also escaping Zod's ship, and Jor-El tells Superman,
We wanted you to learn what it meant to be human first. So that one day, when the time was right, you could be the bridge between two peoples.
so he says that, and but the movie itself, it doesn't go into that. It just makes Superman a god, or like not a god, but like they make him a depressing god. But like other characteristics I love about Superman is even though he is pretending to be human or trying to be human as Clark Kent, he allows himself to look like a fool,
Mm-hmm.
and he doesn't mind it. He's like, yeah, I'm fine with just looking like a fool. And I also like when people say stuff like they don't get the glasses thing, but people who don't read comics don't know this, but the glasses, the reason they can't recognize him is because the glasses are made of Kryptonian glass, and they project a different image of what Clark Kent looks like, which is how no one can see through the glasses unless he were to take them off, which obviously in older comics they probably didn't explain that. They just thought, oh, he just wears glasses, changes his hairstyle, and then boom, he no one can recognize him. But people aren't that gullible, so they had to add a lore to the glasses. Now, before I give the attention to Carlos, I gotta say something ahead of time, okay? Even though Carlos was introduced to the old Hanna-Barbera cartoons and whatnot, I learned he never seen a Superman movie. So I told him that I would introduce him to Superman and the movie. And he was like, okay, that'll be fun. So we watch the first Superman movie, okay? And he's enjoying it. He's like, wow, this is so inspirational. This is great. Look how he has to go leave his home and then he builds the Fortress of Solitude or whatever, and then the Marlon Brando monologue happens, and Carlos is feeling very inspired. He's just like, this is awesome, and then he meets Lex Luthor, and immediately he hates Superman, like the movie, and I'm like, what? The thing is, that movie, at least according to him, even though Lex Luthor makes appearances in the Super Friends, that movie was his introduction to Lex Luthor. He didn't know who Lex Luthor was prior, And so he sees Lex Luthor for the first time, and he's just like, no, I hate this movie now. And then Superman 2 rolls around, he's like he was still willing to watch more Superman movies. He's like, okay, cool. We got General Zod, a new villain. And then Lex Luthor appears. He's like, hate this movie already. And I did not show Carlos Superman 3 or 4.
As anyone should.
Yeah. But I did skip ahead to Superman Returns. And what does Superman Returns have at the intro?
Lex Luthor.
Exactly. And he immediately hates Superman Returns. Now, this is kind of a hot take, but Superman Returns is actually my favorite Superman movie. And I know people are gonna probably throw bricks at me, but
I will.
Yeah. But anyways, then we get to Man of Steel, and Carlos is like, I already know Lex Luthor's gonna be in this movie, and I tell him, Carlos, cross my heart, Lex Luthor is not in Man of Steel. And he's like, okay. And the thing is, Carlos watches movies with what is called audio description, and the audio description described to him that Zod threw a LexCorp truck at Superman. And Carlos is like, I thought you said he wasn't in this movie. And I said, he's not in the movie. That's just a truck. and then I show him Batman vs Superman, and I'm just like, I'm not really a big fan of this movie, but I still want to show it to him because I want to show him Justice League, the 4-hour cut, not the
Joss Whedon.
Yeah. And we watched Justice League. We watched Batman vs Superman, and he's hearing Jesse Eisenberg talking, and he hears him playing basketball and everything, and the audio description has not described him or named him Lex Luthor. They just say that they see a red-haired long-haired man, young man playing basketball, and he hears Jesse Eisenberg. He's like, oh, he's in this movie. He's from Rio. And so I tell him, yeah, he is from Rio. If you like him, you'll like him or whatever. And then immediately when Jesse's write checks for Lex, he's like, Oh no. And you can already imagine how he reacted to Zack Snyder's Justice League at the very end, because Carlos enjoyed the first bit and then immediately doesn't like the movie because Lex Luthor's at the very end of the movie.
I thought Carlos would recognize Jesse Eisenberg from like Now You See Me instead
Yeah.
of Rio.
But yeah, that's my introduction to Carlos. Now I'm allowed to let Carlos speak and say what he thinks about what he likes or dislikes about Superman.
David, it's understandable that someone would hate Lex Luthor in Batman versus Superman because the Lex Luthor sucks in that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like Lex Luthor. He looks like Caillou all grown up and
I knew that kid was no good.
Can you at least tell us your favorite superhero?
well, Daredevil, I suppose right now, but like I said, I've never really been much of a superhero guy. I know when I was younger, I was obsessed with Wolverine.
As you should be.
And I know my favorite supervillain back then was Venom. But other than that, like nowadays, I do like the Joker. I think he's pretty cool. And I like Daredevil because, he's kind of like me. Well, he is like me. He's blind. And
Are
well,
you
yeah,
sure you're not Daredevil?
I don't know. You guys call me Daredevil sometimes.
Just so you know, I've seen Carlos do things that I'm surprised all the time that I'm just saying he is Daredevil. He is the Hell's Kitchen devil.
A true inspiration for all.
Mm-hmm.
But my favorite hero is Captain America. And there's a lot of reasons why I like Captain America. He's true to the red, white, and blue. He's really athletic, and and he has this amazing shield that works like a frisbee, where you throw it and it knocks out enemies. I also say that too because I like frisbee. And Captain America, he's also very selfless too. Like he's willing to go out of his way to help people in need. And I think in the MCU, it does a good job of capturing Captain America's selflessness. Like I remember, like in Endgame, he runs a therapy session for everyone, and he's there just helping people to recover and move forward after a tragic event.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I feel like, one of Captain America's greatest strengths is that, like, I mean, even without his powers, he is willing to motivate people to be the best that they can.
Mm-hmm. As I stated before, my favorite superhero is Spider-Man, and my introduction with Spider-Man was the very first movie. Unfortunately, I did not get to see Spider-Man 2 in theaters, but I did get to see Spider-Man 3 in theaters. But like after seeing the first 3 movies, around the third movie, I was already like getting into comic books, and I started to read The Killing Joke. So then I was like, I'm very curious. How is Spider-Man like in the comic books? So I read Spider-Man comics, and I was immediately, a fan. I was just like, this just upped my love level for Spider-Man. And to this day, and I'm sure I have these Spider-Man fanatics that will probably have their own different opinions and interpretations, but just keep in mind, this is my opinion. To this day, I feel like Tobey Maguire embodies what Spider-Man is. Yes, Tom and Andrew embody Spider-Man in their own right. It's just that when we're talking about personality and accuracy, Tobey fits that bill. And Stan Lee definitely talks about how Andrew is Spider-Man or Tom is Spider-Man, but that's the point of Spider-Man. He can be anybody, It's just that when we're talking about comic Spider-Man, to me, Tobey is Spider-Man, and I love Spider-Man just because like of his selfish nature before he became Spider. Like he, decided to fight for good. Like he was so selfish. He wanted money. He wanted to make himself, known in wrestling matches, you know, like he was just so selfish. And like, you know, I know we as human beings, we can be very selfish, and then just by one incident, he immediately changes into the selfless person that he is now. Yeah, he can be selfish at times, but that's, you know, that's part of being human, and he struggles like a human being, you know. And I also love that he's super strong, that he could like stop a train. He can freaking catch a boat from splitting or whatever. He can lift cars with ease. I also love that like he holds back his punches because he knows that if he punches a regular human being, please don't hate me, but unlike the Spider-Man video games where he's punching villains into the air, like point is he holds back his punches when he, you know, he has every opportunity to not, you know, and he takes all the regret that, you know, a lot of the mistakes he makes, he takes all that regret and learns from them instead of like becoming super villains or whatever.
Here's an idea. Who do you think would win, Superman or I don't know, whatever superhero you guys want?
What about Daredevil, your favorite superhero?
He probably would die.
That's a good question, Carlos. I'm sure Daredevil wouldn't survive against Superman. But against Captain America, I think Captain America would lose as well. I mean, Superman has, you know, strength from the sun. Captain America gets his strength from essentially super steroids. And you know the power, and you know natural power from the sun is no match for, and you know steroids are no match for Superman and his all natural strength. And so I think Superman would beat Captain America to a bloody pulp.
Yeah.
And yeah, forget about that shield. That shield won't make a dent on Captain America. No, not Captain America. That shield won't make a dent on Superman.
Yeah. Superman versus Spider-Man. Okay. I'm a big Spider-Man fan, and I know for a fact that Spider-Man would probably lose. But I'm also going to have to side with Tobey Maguire on the fight that Spider-Man would win. Only because Spider-Man has intellect, you know? And Spider-Man, in the comics, he has web shooters, you know? And it's also made clear that, you know, Aunt May knows who Superman is, and meaning people know who Superman is. And so Spider-Man would know Superman's weakness, and he would know that he could make kryptonite webbing. How Spider-Man would obtain kryptonite webbing? No clue. Maybe he could ask Batman for help, or maybe
freak Caillou.
or in Spidey fashion, he would sneak into LexCorp and steal his own kryptonite, just so he can make his own kryptonite webbing.
Yeah, but then yeah, but doesn't Superman and Spider-Man fight in the comics? In the crossover?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
It's been a while since I read that comic, but yeah, they do fight. But like I'm just saying, I'm on Toby's side, but you know, deep down, I know Superman would kick Spider-Man's butt.
But if they took it to space, Superman would always win because
Heck
none of
yes.
none of the superheroes we choose
Yeah.
can survive in space.
No, they would be like. Now I will say here's a fun thing, you know. Now, Superman versus Omni-Man and Homelander. I gotta say, Superman for both of them. Superman because he's a little stronger than Omni-Man, and definitely more powerful than Omni-Man. No, wait, no, I got it mixed up. No, Omni-Man is stronger than Superman, but Superman has more powers than Omni-Man. And with Homelander, I feel like both characters would beat Homelander without ever actually fighting him. They would just bash ego and narcissism, and then Homelander would just go home and cry. You know, I'll be honest, that's my hot take. Chris, what do you think?
Actually, while we're here, let's compare Superman to one of the greatest comic book characters of all time, and also Daniel's favorite superhero. Rip, he's not here.
He's at work. He abandoned us after the theater.
His favorite superhero, Batman.
Oh my gosh, okay.
And so, who would win in the Batman versus Superman fight? I know for a fact it will not end with Superman saying Martha and Batman being like, "Why do you say that name?" I think what would happen is that Batman, because he has more intellect, would beat Superman by making a suit out of Krypton.
Kryptonite.
Yeah,
you mean.
kryptonite, and would use that to weaken him and defeat him.
I agree with you, Chris, but at the same time, I don't. I say I agree because, you know, knowing Batman's intellect, for sure, Batman would develop a kryptonite suit and would develop, you know, anything deadly for Superman, you know, in terms of kryptonite. But let's say that Batman didn't have kryptonite, you know, and let's say, you know, he didn't know kryptonite or how to obtain kryptonite or anything like that. Let's say that he met Superman like he did in Justice League War, where like he is not prepared for a fight with Superman. Legitimately, Superman would obliterate him. Like in Justice League War, Superman isn't being mind controlled or anything like that. He's just fighting because he thinks Batman is a threat, and then little by little they just come to terms later. But like that fight, freaking Batman nearly died a bunch of times. And it's because like Batman did not come prepared to fight Superman. Well, he technically did come prepared because he knows Superman's secret identity, and he just tells him, "It's not in you to kill people, Clark." And then Superman just stops. But I'm just saying, Batman would be a goner if Superman and him were to fight. You know, Superman could like with just a little squeeze could like break his bones or his, you know,
I
like
mean, it wouldn't be that hard. Bane already did it.
yeah. But yeah, like no, like with kryptonite for sure, Batman would win because of his intellect. Without kryptonite, Batman is pissing his pants.
Yeah, but you know that. You know, rain continuity Batman's always gonna figure out something.
Yeah, he is. Like especially with that moment I mentioned where he knows Superman's secret identity and used that, and was like, Superman was like, oh, uses X-ray vision. Bruce Wayne, no.
He does something similar in the animated show too.
Yeah,
in that crossover with.
I love how Batman took that very personally. He freaking like, you peeked, and he didn't just find out who Superman is. He took his girl. And also he found out where he lived too.
That was hilarious.
Yeah.
So my take on Superman and Batman is, yeah, I think that certainly Superman could laser off Batman's head. You know, you wouldn't even have to get that close to Batman to do that. But then again, you know, Batman would definitely be smart enough to do something with kryptonite or whatever. And who knows? Maybe they'll end up, you know, killing each other or whatever the case may be. But I don't know. Like, I don't know. That's just how I could see it going down.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, you know, Superman and Batman are both powerful forces not to be reckoned with.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows? Maybe their punches will cause the world to end.
Yeah.
Create like a world-sucking vortex.
Oh gosh.
So as always, subscribe to our podcast and feel free to suggest to us what topics we should talk about. And we always enjoy having you guys share your feedback with us. And we hope you tune in to the next episode of Hidden Pockets Podcast.